All right, I got some stuff to show you tonight. So Mexico Beach drama continues, and I'll show you. This happened a couple of days ago. The controversial city manager, Chris Hubbard, was terminated for a post again on Facebook. This happened to the guy more than a decade ago. More than a decade ago. I believe the reason it was political turmoil and controversial Facebook posts back then. And it's like crack to Chris Hubbard. He just can't help himself, and they were forced to terminate him. I'm going to tell you later some of the findings in the big audit of Mexico Beach. It is unbelievable. I mean, the findings are incredible. Violations all over the place. Contracts not bid out properly, to say the least. On and on and on. It's how people are not arrested. Well, we know how, because Sheriff Tommy Ford is covering for them. That's how, quite frankly. Sheriff Tommy Ford, by the way, sent one of his deputies. So basically, Mexico Beach used to have a police department, but they got rid of the police department. And for twice as much money, now the sheriff's office is patrolling Mexico Beach. And Sheriff Tommy Ford said that he was sending a deputy out there because he wanted to make sure there wasn't any political corruption in Mexico Beach. This was around the same time Mario Gispert was the city administrator. They have gone through so many city administrators over there. Now, this one's going to be super interesting because Chris Hubbard, he knows, I mean, hey, FBI, hey, Homeland Security. I mean, you understand FEMA falls under the jurisdiction of Homeland Security. It's our money, but they're supposed to be managing it. And more than $300 million came through Bay County after Hurricane Michael in late 2018, a Cat 5 hurricane. And more than $100 million, or about $100 million, was for Mexico Beach. By the way, when you look at Bay County, all through Bay County and Beach, does it look like more than $350 million was spent to rebuild Bay County? Does it look like it to anybody? Do you know how much of that money was stolen? The feds know. Sheriff Tommy Ford knows. I'm sure Larry Bassford knows. He said he had Larry Bassford, who is the lead prosecutor in 6 counties. All of these people, by the way, are up for re-election next month. You could, in Bay County, get rid of Sheriff Tommy Ford and actually elect a retired captain by the name of Andy Hussar. Because if he's elected, you're going to know it all. What's been hidden if Andy Hussar is elected sheriff next month. The state attorney has even a bigger jurisdiction. He's over 6 counties. The lead prosecutor, Larry Bassford. If the people were to vote for Eric Garman for state attorney and Andy Hussar, things might happen. But you're not going to believe the things I'm going to show you. But here's what's interesting now. You've got Chris Hubbard, the city administrator, who was just fired 2 days ago in Mexico Beach. Only one person voted against firing, and that was Jerry Bad Liability Smith. And I think that was Jerry Smith saying, hey, I didn't vote to fire you, buddy. Don't rat me out. Chris Hubbard knows a lot. So, like I need to tell them, hey, feds, you might want to talk to Chris Hubbard. But things are going to happen up there, especially after the shocking results of the audit. But I'm going to show you the firing of Chris Hubbard and why. In fact, I'll show you why they did it right now. of all of all the real reasons, this is what it was. It was a controversial Facebook post that he posted on his personal Facebook page, and somebody took it, screenshotted it, and sent it around publicly, and it embarrassed the city council out there. Chris Hubbard, who already is called the people clowns. You remember all that? It says, me reading all the comments on social media from people who have never worked a day in local government but criticize my ideas for improving Mexico Beach. And then the arrows go down. And it says, oh, yeah, you're effing retarded. All right. And that was just too much for them to bear. Not all the other stuff. Not the blocking of the previous mayor from seeing the finances. It's a mess. It's a mess over there. But I'm just saying, I think there could be nuclear fallout because now you've got a pissed off Chris Hubbard who might be given a deal to, to rat people out. We'll see. We'll see. Also, I'm going to show you in Panama City Beach. Now they, under the most deceitful elected official in all of Bay County. I'm not saying he's the most corrupt. There are other people I'd give that award to. But he is the most deceitful, and that's Michael Jarman. In my opinion, he gets that award. He's pushing to have the municipal elections that always take place in April. He wants to move them to November with the general election. There are so many reasons not to do that, but I'm going to show you what transpired today in Panama City Beach. There is something going on there that I don't quite know what it is. Some people think it's just because Michael Jarman and Ethan Register, the new city councilman over there, this would give them an extra 6 months. So they would have 4.5 years rather than 4 years on the council. I do not think that's the reason. Yeah, they like that benefit, but I don't think that's the reason. Ever since it's been a city, Panama City Beach, there's a lot of people who would have liked to have extended their terms an extra 6 months, but nobody else did this. This, because it's the exact same argument that was made several months ago across the bridge in Panama City, this signals to me that the big developers, the St. Joe Company, which is owned by BlackRock, think about that while you're making breakfast in the morning. Michael Jarman does whatever the hell he's told to do, and so do a few others over there. So anyway, I'm going to show you that, and we're going to get right to the videos because they are really quite something. I mentioned it is next month is when you're going to vote for sheriff, next for the primary. The next month is when you're going to vote for state attorney, the lead prosecutor. Hopefully you vote for Eric Garman and Andy Hussar if we want integrity in office. But also the same holds true for county commission, where Tommy Ham, who's a home builder and a county commissioner, wants a third term, but somebody else is running against him. All right, let's start with Mexico Beach and see what Chris Hubbard had to say. This guy's always in hot water. One thing I like about Chris Hubbard is the same thing I liked about Mike Thomas. And that is these guys, I mean, they get themselves in trouble, but for the most part, Mike Thomas would never have groveled like this, however. But Chris Hubbard, I like people who just blurt out what they think so we know where they stand, no matter what it is. I'm pretty much a freedom of speech guy. I would rather, instead of censoring people, let people talk so that there can be consequences. And there were consequences today. Or rather a couple of days ago, here's what happened in Mexico Beach.
As someone who loves Mexico.
So Chris Hubbard is bottom right. This is the new council over there. Now, Rich Iron Fist Wolf is sitting in the middle with a white goatee under Mexico Beach. He's the new mayor, right? He's the guy still trying to figure out why the media gets to record in the meetings. Oh my God. And they had a successful coup. I hope the appeal is happening with the recall of Michelle Miller when they lied on the recall petition, and the local judge, Circuit Judge Goodman, allowed it to happen, just like we see with a lot of judges locally. But here's Chris Hubbard reading a statement before they, at a special meeting before they voted to fire him.
Beach and put my life on hold in Kentucky so I could come back here and try to help out. Those things indeed seem silly and foolish to me. Most of you would probably agree. However, I didn't comment on the posts of those people. I did not engage with them in any way. Instead, as I've stated, I posted the meme as an attempt at humor on my private Facebook page. The page has been set to private for years so that people with whom I am friends can see my posts and no one else. Because those people who are my friends agree with me on most issues and understand my sense of humor. I've made dozens of posts on the same Facebook page regarding Mexico Beach, involving memes and videos where I'm poking fun at city employees, city hall staff, working in Mexico Beach in general, and a majority of time degrading and insulting myself through self-depreciating humor. None of these Facebook posts were ever or are ever intended for public consumption. I know my sense of humor is not for everyone, and that is why I kept my page set on private. However, none of my posts, this one or any others on my page, were ever meant to be intentionally derogatory, insulting, or hurtful. Unfortunately, someone I've been friends with for 15 years or so, along with being a friend and former co-worker of her husband during my first time here, has become in the politics of Mexico Beach and engulfed in the conspiracy theories that have taken place here over the last few years, and saw this post as an opportunity to hurt me, even though she knows I am not the monster being portrayed on social.
Conspiracy theories. Wait till you hear the audit results of Mexico Beach. Conspiracy theories. We know that the last mayor, or the longtime mayor over there, was who owns Ace Hardware. We know that Al Cathy had more than $500,000 of city money spent while he was mayor. He was also a vendor. His company got over $500,000 after Hurricane Michael. And we wouldn't have known that if not for Mayor Michelle Miller, who I guess has been the martyr here, because look how many people have had to leave because of her tenacious effort to get the truth out, which Chris Hubbard calls conspiracy theories.
Media. She made the most of the opportunity, screenshotting the meme so she could share it with those who would have no problem in posting it on public pages.
He's talking about a friend of his who saw this meme that I showed you, which was on his personal Facebook page. She screenshotted it and made it public. And he's talking about his friend. He's hurt that he feels like she stabbed him in the back. But really, she sounds like somebody with integrity.
Demonizing me as some heinous individual and getting the result we are seeing here today. I bring this up because I want to take this opportunity to sincerely apologize to anyone who was upset with my post. But I also want to take this time to apologize for her. I want to believe her and her husband are genuinely good people who are listening to the wrong people today.
She's a teacher.
Wow.
She was a special needs teacher. Of course you pissed her off.
All right.
That's people in the audience shouting. Because again, his meme called people effing retarded. So that's what that was all about. Sarah Moon. He really is, but I don't hold that against him. It's all the other stuff I really hold against him. No, but honestly, a city administrator who talks to and about the people the way he does, yeah, he needed to go a long time ago. But I want to point out, notice guys like Chris Hubbard, who always play the victim. One thing about a narcissist is they play the victim. And here he is. He just can't believe that his friend betrayed him. And he's going to play the victim here. This is always, since I know it, and it's the same thing, by the way, that the narcissist in Lynn Haven does. Mayor Jesse Nelson, he does the same thing. gaslights and he's the best gaslighter though, but they both play the victim. And that is a key trait of a narcissist. Watch Chris Hubbard here.
That's good. While I was the intended target of this act, based on the people in this room, is obviously affected a lot more than just me. Over the last 11 months, I've been shocked of the hatred and vitriol in the politics of Mexico Beach, where unfortunately people seem unwilling to disagree with, I'm sorry.
It's packed.
Mexico Beach, unfortunately, people seem unwilling to debate an issue on its merits and then agree to disagree. If there's no resolution to be found, instead, what I've seen here are some people who, if they disagree with someone on any subject, that person then becomes a mortal enemy, and the goal turns into destroying their career, life.
This is the guy, remember, who calls his critics clowns on the official Facebook page of Mexico Beach.
And reputation if possible, while facts, the truth, and collateral damage be damned. Innocent people are not involved in politics or being negatively impacted and hurt, and it should not be this way in Mexico Beach. Unfortunately, I don't know the solution. And unfortunately, after today, I'm not sure if I will be here to work on a solution, as my future at Mexico Beach is now in the hands of the city council. I would love to remain here, but in case I'm not given that opportunity, I want everyone to know unquestionably the following two things at the end of this meeting. One, that I am very sorry to anyone who was hurt or insulted by the meme I posted, as well as those who were negatively impacted by it in any way after it was posted on public social media. And two, that I'll always love Mexico Beach. Mayor, you have the floor back.
Can we
So those are the supporters of Chris Hubbard. Now what I'm going to do is they talk for about an hour. So I'm going to forward it to, let's see if I can get it to where it needs to be here. I'm going to forward it to some of the more interesting comments before they vote. And of course, if we're going to talk interesting comments, we got to start with who? With the guy in the top left in the beige shirt. Who is that? That's Jerry Bad Liability. Jerry Bad Liability.
You might bother Tim, but you don't bother me. Is that what he's done since he hinted the good outweighs the bad. They are and move and haul. That man right there has turned this city around. We headed in the right direction. What he did was wrong. Wrong. What do we do if we left up to this council? But I thank all y'all for coming. I really do. I appreciate all the emails. I don't respond.
Hey, that question was asked, Miss Sarah Moon, and it sounds like since he was fired for cause, and Linda Hamilton asked that question, the lady sitting up next to the mayor, Councilwoman Linda Hamilton, she asked that question, and it sounds the sitting mayor there, Richard Iron Fist Wolf, said he doesn't think so. He doesn't think he's going to get a severance since it was with cause. And now Bad Liability Smith is saying that he doesn't answer emails.
The email, you don't know that. I got arthritis hands. I don't do good email. Call me.
Got arthritis hands.
I just wanted to say, if we're going back to the social media thing, if there's been 3 events of that, whether it was written up or reprimanded or not, it still happened. And obviously there was not a lesson learned. And I think the expression three strikes and you're out would apply here.
Anything else on the table?
Yeah. Just like I said, the last.
I'm going to forward it again a little bit because the first motion is going to come from Jerry Bad Liability Smith.
And not claim.
Here we go. Here's where the action starts.
Citizens need to understand, if this is the worst scenario is going to be the worst scenario for the city also. We're going to struggle without a city administrator, because it isn't
It has a few of these little pauses, but it's about to start up again.
like a breakfast and you take the three and you hire one. And it's that quick and you make that decision right there. This process could take a month, maybe 6 weeks to do. Just keep that all in mind, that if this does go to the worst scenario, this city's gonna be impacted. We're gonna have to do some work. And we're up to it. My decision is not gonna be made on because of the budget. As much as that was posted on social media, it's insulting. It's absurd.
Social media.
We give our time. We give our time here. The same as you give up your time right now to come because you're concerned.
Hey, the last mayor, Iron Fist Wolf there. Not the last mayor. The last mayor was great, Michelle Miller. But the longtime mayor, Al Cathy, he wasn't up there giving up his time. Chris Hubbard drinking a beer. It's not a beer. I'm just joking. Although I wouldn't put it past him. It's no time for jokes, Marty. Jokes are not funny. Look at Iron Fist lecturing people. Hey, the longtime mayor, Al Cathy, Rich, I mean, he got $500,000, bro. I mean, quit acting like you guys are such public servants.
I'm concerned.
And I was just gonna say, as far as the concern about another city administrator, we have someone who has said he will step up to the plate. He's available as of Sunday. He said he'd be glad to do that temporarily until we find someone new. So we can't really use that excuse. That's just gonna buy us more time to find somebody that's gonna do a good job when they are hired.
And I hope that when I just got done talking, I wasn't looking for an excuse. Okay, because I've already talked to some people too, so I'm trying to come up with solutions.
So, Mayor, so I feel like I'm kind of being accused of basing my decision on the budget. Not.
These guys are so
I just want to
sensitive.
be clear. That is part of my thought process. I'm thinking more of the impact that this is going to have on the city, not just the budget. I know we can get to the budget. I've talked to someone who said they would.
All right, let's get to it. Let's
also
hear
help us
bad
with the
liability here. Make a motion.
budget. Think that we're in this position. Well, so I just position the city's going to.
Come on.
Himself. But thank you.
All right, here we go. Jerry, do your thing.
Anything else at the table?
Chris, you got anything else? I'm gonna ask you that.
I'm sorry?
I just asking, how do you feel? Shouldn't say you're not your feelings, but you've heard what's going on.
I mean, like I said, whenever I read my statement, I take full responsibility. It's in the council's hands. Wish it would never happen. Didn't expect it to happen. It was meant to be somewhat humorous for people that get my sense of humor.
But I mean, as far, you didn't mind, you were commenting on that, but you really think you can not do it again?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I
So you're, I mean,
don't know.
I mean, it's a big decision here.
I understand. I apologize for putting everybody in this situation.
Answer this question. Could you not?
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
Facebook doesn't drive my life.
Here we go.
Hold it down right here.
I'm just asking, I just want to be pointing it out to the public.
Attorney, you have anything to say before we move on?
Sir, it's your decision to make at the table.
Here, Jerry Smith's gonna try and save him.
We're at the table. We've completed at the table. And I guess at this time, I'm gonna ask for a motion for action.
I'll make a motion that the city council of Mexico Beach terminate Chris Hubbard from his position as the city administrator immediately.
Wow, Linda Hamilton made the motion.
Do you have a second?
Nobody wants to. Look at
Do you have
this.
any more discussion
Chris,
or another suggestion?
you know we can't allow it. I just said we can't allow it to continue.
Do we have another motion or do we,
I make the motion, we recommend Stu right here.
Did you hear that? Jerry Smith makes a motion. Bad liability says, I make a motion. We reprimand the stew out of him. Reprimand the stew out of him. He wants to hit him hard. Oh, bad liability there.
Wasn't that the two of them you said reprimand or something? Make a motion. And make him stay off Facebook.
Make him stay off Facebook.
I don't even know if we can do that. I'm not sure what reprimand the stew out of it would equate to.
You ain't old enough yet, Mr. Sloan.
So the attorney, Tim Sloan, says, I'm not sure I understand what reprimand the stew out of him means. An old bad liability says, you're not old enough to understand that.
Well, wait a minute now, I might be, but I'm just not sure in the legal
Reprimand.
context what that
We don't
means.
reprimand.
All right, let's get it organized at the table here. We had a motion to terminate. That was no second.
I'll second.
Oh,
Second.
got a second to terminate.
I second the motion to terminate.
Are we good on that? 'Cause it was a
We
step
need to
off.
have a vote.
Well, you didn't close the.
Okay, we're gonna close that motion and reopen it because he started talking.
Okay, so if you get another motion and it gets a second.
Let's start this over again, guys, because we had a second, or excuse me, a motion. Second didn't come. We had some conversation over here and conversation over here.
No.
So we didn't get it clarified. Let's go ahead and get it clarified. Is there a motion for action?
Yes, I make a motion for action to terminate Chris Hubbard from his position as city administrator, effective immediately.
I second the motion.
Tammy, take the roll.
Ms. Hamilton,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
No.
Mr. Linderman,
Yes.
Mayor Wolf,
Yes.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Everybody just behave.
Back to what we're
Just-
talking.
That's what you guys all behave yourselves. What the hell are you guys doing? Clapping and screaming in there. What do you think you're doing? Isn't that something? So things are happening over there. This is a big deal, but the biggest deal is the results of the big audit in Mexico Beach that got $100 million after the hurricane. And I'm going to share with you that information after I digest it a little bit more. But coming up right now, we're going to take a look at Panama City Beach and their effort to get rid of Super Tuesday, Municipal Tuesday in April. And they want to move the city elections to the November federal and governor election. They want to move it to November, put everything in November. So what you're going to see next is unbelievable.
Hand caught in the cookie jar? Sometimes bad habits continue even into adulthood. I'm El Saline, 850-215-0628. Let me help you.
Don't let back pain and neck pain get you down. Find relief at Brown Chiropractic Center on St. Andrews Boulevard in Panama City. Dr. Sherry Brown helps people heal naturally with chiropractic adjustments and deep tissue massage. Call 769-3777. We're going to go right to Panama City Beach this morning, and a citizen is speaking right now about what they're going to be pushing toward the council in Panama City Beach. So let's go right to this and hear what the citizen here has to say.
Throughout my entire lifetime in politics has been that the local elections will be overwhelmed by the presidential election and other elections, and therefore the issues and the personalities of a local election will not be vetted or even acknowledged.
This is Mr. Charles Nelson, by the way.
I respectfully request that the council study this a little bit more, and I think ultimately decide that there's a reason for the wisdom over 3 centuries, 50 states, and thousands of municipalities of not wanting their local elections overwhelmed by a federal election. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Ms. Ward, I hate to ask you questions from the audience, but are you aware of other municipalities?
So who he's talking to is the current appointed after the supervisor of elections, Mark Anderson, retired early in the middle of his term. His number two was appointed. So Mayor Tetimer is talking to the current supervisor of elections, who is there to give her thoughts. The previous supervisor of elections, Mark Anderson, he told the city of Panama City a few months back what a terrible idea it was. He was vehemently against it. But Nina Ward is here. I don't know what she's going to say. I have not seen this. I'm watching this with you for the first time. But the very deceitful councilman, Mike Jarman, claims that she's game. So we're going to find out.
In the state of Florida that have done this change?
Yes, there are other cities in the state that have their elections coincide. One that comes to mind that's very close is the city of Crestview and Destin, I believe, has also made the change.
They made the change in 2019.
Okay, just to repeat for folks watching, there are other cities that have done this, including Crestview and Destin. Okay. Further public comment on this item?
I'm going to afford this a little bit.
Scott Howland, 137, 137.
They made the change.
Yeah, there's 50 or 60 people here, which, you know, it's hard to get people to participate at the local level. And I think by encouraging this to happen at the same time as federal and state elections, that you're going to have more participation, more involvement, more people are going to be involved with the political process at that time. When February, March, April are going on, people have other things going on. When the political season comes around, people are investing their time into politics. This is when they're looking at it. That's the season. And I think it makes sense to have the election happen at the time when this is when the interest is going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hellman.
It's a terrible, terrible idea.
Further public comment on this discussion item? Okay, discussion from the council?
Well, I mean, I brought this.
So this is the most deceitful elected official in Bay County, Michael Sherman. He's pretending that he brought it up because he cares so much about public participation. This guy's unbelievable. He makes the exact same arguments that the cronies across the bridge in Panama City made just a few months back. I can barely stand to watch this guy, but I'm going to have to suffer through it with you.
What's up? For someone of my political ideology, I want to see people at the polls.
Which is cronyism.
I've reached out to the city of Destin. They made the change in 2019. They have seen at least a 50% increase in their voters. So I understand voter apathy, but I am not up here to.
He would get an extra 6 months if this goes through. So he'd get a 4.5-year term. Now, certainly he wants that, but that's, I'm convinced, not the animating factor. I believe St. Joe Company, BlackRock, the big developers, they want this. And I haven't figured out exactly why it is yet, but it is absolutely horrific. You talk about just massive changes in elections nationally. Look what's happening on the Democrat ticket. Yeah, just make up the rules as you go. Just change things that have been this way for a long time. Just cram everything into 1 month to where people running for office, maybe that might be the move. It might be an Incumbent Protection Act, because it would be so much more expensive and difficult for somebody running for, you know how many commercials and billboards there are on TV and radio during November because of the governor's race, the president, all that stuff. There's almost no room for challengers to incumbents. In fact, I'm going to roll with that. I'm going to be like Phil Chesser. I'm going to roll with it. That really might be what this is about. Make it more difficult for challengers, considering the recent success of challengers against the incumbents. Look at this guy.
Pick and choose who has the qualifying to vote. We have apathy now in April by a sheer representation of the amount of voters that vote.
I mean, this guy can, he'll say anything. I cannot believe this guy.
I don't think you're going to see the level of apathy that's going to make up the difference between 26% and 75% voter turnout, or 14% and over 50% turnout. You're not going to see that. I think it's a good thing for the city. We want participation. It does extend the campaigning time. Now, as a candidate, you can choose to you don't have to choose to campaign at all.
Yeah, that's what he wants.
But that extended campaigning time gives the candidate longer to be able to go into the neighborhoods and communicate directly with constituents in the city. Right now, they only have 2 months of a resident actually knowing who's qualified to run. So residents will know exactly who's qualified to run, and they will have plenty of time to get to know them. As far as the city clerk is concerned, I don't see it as one, the city clerk is busy as can be anyway. Two, it takes the level of, or you have an independent entity reviewing your election. You're not doing it in-house as we do it now.
God.
As was stated, it saves the city money. We do not have to pay for this, as I've read or been told somewhere that someone made that comment.
You know who made that? Do you know who made that comment? The former, oh my God, the former supervisor of elections, Mark Anderson, who knows. He said, we'll have full control of your elections, but you'll have to pay for it. Why would you give up control of your own elections and pay for it? The most deceitful elected official in Bay County, you're looking at him.
Let's see. There's so many good things that there's a ton of cities in the state of Florida that already do this. So to the comment of we're like an albatross on this, it's not true. There are plenty of places across the United States that have their elections in November, especially here in Florida.
I'm really good at reading facial tells. Like, it's like in poker when somebody is bluffing. And if you've never seen the TV series called Lie to Me, it's an older TV series, like probably a dozen years ago. It is so good. It talks about micro expressions and body tics and things like that. But Michael Jarman is full of them right now.
So I would like to move forward with this. I'll entertain any questions anyone might have for me.
Look at him. Look at him.
Further discussion from the council?
Yes, I'd like to, first of all, thank Vice Mayor Jarman for bringing this up. Previous councils have tried to
That's the name of the show, Lie to Me.
do this in the past, and I think the previous supervisor election wasn't open to this at that time, what I remember.
Look, why is he being so dishonest? He was vehemently against it. He went up and spoke passionately against it. Look at their faces when they're saying, the last supervisor elections, he kind of might have been slightly against it. Look at their faces when they lie. What does BlackRock that owns St. Joe or the big developer, what do they have on these guys that they want to do this so bad? Or it really is a way to make it harder for for challengers to defeat incumbents. That's one big thing. But see, it's always been that way though. There's some other factor that is pushing this. A big one. This is a top-down push. And they've got the political whores up there to try to change all of the election, just like you're seeing on a national level.
I think Drew and Holly are shaking their head, yes. But anyhow, 17% turnout, my election 2 years ago versus 75% turnout, that to me is a no-brainer in saving on the cost. So I agree with Vice Mayor Jarman on us moving our election to November for those reasons.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman. Let's get
Well,
everyone.
I was just going to answer one question.
Vice Mayor, let's just get everyone,
Okay.
and then we can go back.
Keep in line, Mayor
Councilmember
Teddimer.
Well, I've really struggled with this because I believe that we need to provide clarity to the voters. And I feel like with the long ballots, there's going to be more confusion.
That's right,
I
Mary.
think this is also going to create a barrier to individuals stepping up and running for office.
That's
because
right.
you're not going to be able to do it unless you're able to get boatloads of money. And frankly, I'm rather appalled at how much money is spent on campaigns. So certainly it's stimulating. They're fighting for sign placement, fighting for contributions. And just imagine what debates would be like.
By the way, I just want to point something out. As much as I'm happy that Councilwoman Coburn is leaning, at least she's got good questions and concerns at this point. I don't know how she's going to fall on this. She's wrong about this. This is a common economic fallacy, okay? To say that it stimulates the economy. I want you to consider something. This is a mistake. See, there's a great book. It's sitting behind me. It's by Frederick Bastiat. And he said one of the most important things when you're considering economics or public policy is don't only look at what is seen, but what is not seen. I hope you hear me. It's the greatest lesson in politics is compared to what and what is not seen. The money that is spent on elections, let's say somebody spends, I think Mayor Teddimer spent like $40,000 or $50,000 of his own money, which is very rare. But most people will spend a few $1,000s, collect a bunch of money from locals, and maybe spend $10,000, $20,000 on a city race, much more for other races. Does that money really stimulate the economy? Most of the money is being paid, a lot of it online for signs, okay? That money could have been spent instead at local restaurants. I mean, the money, it's not like that's money that would not have been spent. It would have been still spent on more productive things. So please always consider not only what is seen, Mary, but what is not seen.
If we're all
It's an
running
economic
at the same
fallacy.
time. So I think that we owe it to the voters to make it as easy as possible with no confusion to be able to understand how to go to the polls and vote. And I think this is going to create a lot of confusion for the voters.
That's right.
So I am opposed to this.
Yes. Thank you, Mary.
Councilman Register.
So Councilman Register is brand new. He doesn't know anything about government. Nice enough guy. He got hired by Holiday Inn and he works for a political operative, Cody Khan. And so he's basically installed to do the bidding of the tourism industry. And he doesn't know anything about anything in government. It would be like me being in the hospitality business and then talking like I know what I'm talking about. So this is going to be hard for me to listen to, and I'll try and just play it.
I like Ms. Coburn. I've struggled with this. I've gone back and forth, and I've talked to a lot of people.
Not me.
And I'm actually come to a consensus that I'm in support of this.
Of course.
And I'm in support of saving money for our community. We get 8 other sites. We have 2 right now, I think, that we can vote at in our election. Is that correct? two different, Frank Brown and the Lindell, the library there. I think this gives people an opportunity to be able to get out, saves us some money. But it's not without struggle. I want more turnout. I want more people to be out there. I want more people to vote. And the onus on us. The good thing about local elections is it's door to door. I think the guy sitting to my right proved that door to door works. And
he didn't run.
Definitely.
What would he know? He hasn't run against anybody ever. He ran unopposed. He was installed.
It's getting in the face of people, and that doesn't require signage and sign placement and a whole lot of money. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort knocking on doors.
Do you see what I'm talking about? Could you imagine me lecturing? Like, I've studied government for more than a quarter of a century. I'm professionally trained. I got a bachelor's degree in political science, but I didn't let education, school get in the way of my education, as Mark Twain said. I kept learning and studying and asking and growing. Could you imagine if I started lecturing him about the hospitality business, as though I know what I'm talking about?
And this gentleman to my right proved that works and listen to the residents. And I think that's important. And last time I checked, it doesn't take a lot of money to knock on doors.
Last time I checked.
It takes a lot of time, but it doesn't take a lot of money. So I'm for this. I'm all about more voter turnout. I'm not here to hide anything. I'm a Republican. I think that's a big point for us, is to get more people to the polls. I want more people at the polls. So if I could save money, give people more locations to vote, the onus is on us to get out there and grind it out. That's what it is. I talk to a lot of the guys in the county commission race right now, and they're out there grinding. They're working really hard. That's on us. That's our responsibility. You want to get elected, go out and earn it. Doesn't matter what the obstacles are. So
a guy who ran unopposed. My God, dude.
Thank you. Let me just clarify one thing before I go back to
you're fine.
Vice Mayor. Ms. Ward, how many polling places would there be in PCB?
So there's 5 precincts that would affect your city.
Okay, so there would be 5 precincts that would affect, but am I correct in saying people could vote pretty much anywhere as long?
For early voting.
Yeah, for early voting.
Currently, we have 8 early voting sites throughout the county, and you can vote in any of those 8.
Okay. Just wanted to get some, especially around elections, I want to make sure we just.
Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that.
Vice Mayor, you said.
One other thing that I wanted to bring up is the city, if I'm correct, has already changed the election by vote of the council 3 times. So this is not something new. Am I correct on that?
Twice.
Twice. So
It's been done twice by ordinance and then once by referendum.
okay. So it's already been changed twice. So this is not something that,
So that's Cole Davis. The voice you heard there was Cole's son Davis, the corrupt attorney, the dishonest attorney. How do I know? I represented myself. I sat across from him. I was Bernie the attorney against Cole Davis the attorney in front of Judge Michael Overstreet, and I beat him. All right. So I know I've been following Cole Davis at these things for almost a decade. And when his legal firm, and believe it or not, Cole Davis, if you want to find out more about him, go to the website, handfirm.com. I'm not kidding you. It's handfirm.com. Don't be frightened. Type it in and you'll find Cole Davis. When they're pushing for it, you know there's something bigger going on.
there's a rabbit out of the hat. I don't know, with the increase of voting areas, I don't know how that doesn't make it simpler for voters. I think Councilman Register explained just the onus is on us on what we do and how hard we work to earn a vote.
He also ran unopposed, Michael Jarman.
And it very well might lower the cost of running in the city. If you have a lot of bigger elections going on and that money is being tapped, it might not be a lot to go around.
Look at his micro expression. That's what I'm talking about. If you watch closely people's micro expressions, they will betray them. Their expressions will betray them. That is, I know things about him too. An extremely deceitful man.
So once again, we'll put it on the candidate to get out there and whoever works the hardest. and I'm all for that. So I motion, well, any other discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to just say that, honestly, I am a little torn on this. And that, however, this is just a discussion item. And so, we have 2 readings after this. Should we move forward with the discussion? So, I think it's worth it to get it out there. I think this was a good discussion. I think it's always helpful, especially during our election season, to get more accurate election information out there. So thank you again.
Bring her up. Bring up the Supervisor of Elections, Nina Ward.
That's all I have to say on this one.
Well, I don't think it needs to be a motion then, but I'd like to see this back at the next meeting for a first reading.
As long as that's your direction, that's fine. We can just bring it back to you.
Sure.
Yep, I think it's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have beach safety. I'm a little torn on how to do public comment on beach safety since we're.
Geez, I was hoping that the Supervisor of Elections was going to speak, and she might have earlier. Let me double check because I have a feeling. Oh, that's her there.
Elections coming up, and yet
you would be with you.
Oh, that's
don't
her.
currently
Okay,
have
so she
runoff
spoke earlier.
For your stations, whether or not you're going to mail at the very end necessarily mean that you is the
Sorry,
for
I'm just trying to. Okay, there
Align
we
with
go.
the federal, state, and local elections in November.
Cole Sun
You have an
Davis.
ordinance in the agenda packet that does
Okay.
just that. It also, Florida statute allows you to do that by ordinance instead of by charter referendum. And it also allows you to deal with any issues related to the transition of those dates. And so according to section 2-2 of your charter, we have also made language to clarify that if the election was changed, the terms of any council member affected by that date change would extend until your duly qualified successor is elected or appointed.
So Mike Jarman gets an extra 6 months.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
All right, so
Our Supervisor Ward is kind enough to come talk to us about what would change if we went forward with this ordinance.
Great.
Supervisor.
All right, that's Nina Ward. She's the Supervisor of Elections now, and I want to hear what she has to say right after this.
You want to look good? You want to feel good? Little John's Big and Tall is where it's at. Right across the street from Sky's Pizza Pie, 5700 North Davis Highway. You can find out more online at littlejohnsbigandtall.com. He's also a member of the iTex trading community, where your iTex dollars are welcome.
All right, Supervisor of Elections, Nina Ward.
Ward, take it away.
Okay. All right. Good morning. Thank you for having me. As the Bay County Supervisor of Elections, my job is to educate voters and administer elections according to Florida statute. I am here because Mayor Tedemir asked that I just explain the facts regarding potentially changing your election cycle to coincide with the county election timeline and just answer any questions that the council may have. Some of the potential effects include increased voter turnout, but that also looks at increasing potential voter apathy. So increased number of undervotes on the city contest. You're decreasing the cost to the city, but you're also removing the city clerk.
What she means by that is this. Yes, obviously, when you have, like, for example, this November, whoever, we don't know who's running in November for president. It's 4 months away. And I think it's safe to say we have no clue. I know you think you might, but you have no idea what the next 4 months are going to look like. If there's an election in November, what I'm saying is, yeah, you're going to get more people voting on that kind of an election. But what an undervote is when people come out to vote for the big governor and president, and they just don't they don't go to the local stuff. Because just like when a few months ago, when Stuart Tedemir defeated Mark Sheldon, everybody knew that was the big race. Everybody knew that Stuart Tedemir, he wanted to put locals first, and Mark Sheldon wanted to build more hotels for migrant workers, and that he owned Gulf Coast Jam. That was, people were getting the information. What they want to do is bury that underneath the giant federal and state races. That's what she's saying there. Now, she doesn't say it nearly as forcefully as her predecessor, but that's what she said there.
From your election process. There is an increase in voting locations and times. So the first one is voter turnout. So I realize that the obvious benefit is the increased voter turnout. It's no surprise that the general elections in November have a much higher turnout than the other elections. So with that being said, you need to look at the difference in turnout in regard to the presidential year and then the governor's year.
Thank you.
So as of now, your mayoral elections line up with the presidential years, which historically have had a little over 75% turnout, while the November elections during the governor's cycle has on average about 53%. In contrast, when we look at the city elections in April, the last two mayoral elections had a little over 26% turnout, and the 2022 Panama City Beach election, when the 2 council seats were up, just saw just shy of 17% turnout. So now, just because you increase the overall turnout number, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are increasing the turnout for people that are making a choice on the city contest specifically.
She's being so kind and friendly and nice because that's how Nina Ward is. And she's always been very friendly and helpful every time I've asked her questions. Mark Anderson, on the other hand, would be going off on these guys. He's a Marine, Mark Anderson, right? He doesn't play. This is what I mean when I say that Michael Jarman is so deceitful. He is conflating things. He's not talking about undervotes. He's a liar. And the data is being presented by the Supervisor of Elections, Nina Ward.
So if we look at the 20.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Sarah Moon. Mark Anderson was a Navy SEAL. I cannot believe I just blurted out Marine. I know he's a Navy SEAL because we always joke about it. And the reason we joke about it, Mark Anderson and I, is because when I first got here, we played in a local celebrity basketball game, okay? And I was getting on his case on the radio. This was about 2010, because he, for one election cycle, they didn't give out I voted stickers because somebody had been sued earlier, and I was calling Mark Anderson the sticker Scrooge. All right? And Mark Anderson was pissed at me for doing that. But I kept doing it, you know me. Well, turned out he was also chosen to play in this local celebrity basketball game that we were practicing. And at the time, I played a lot of basketball. And I was cutting through the lane in practice, and I got cracked with an elbow to the ribs. And I turned around to see who would do something like that in practice, and it was Mark Anderson, Navy SEAL. And he looks up at me, and he smiles, and he says, "Sticker Scrooge, huh?" Yeah, he got the last word. Navy SEAL. Thank you, Ms. Sarah Moon. That would have been tragic if I had not corrected that.
2020 presidential election, nearly 14,000 people did not make a choice in the county commission race that was also on that same ballot. So yes, overall turnout was high, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all the voters that wanted to vote in that election wanted to vote for that specific contest. So out of 75%, about 14% did not vote for the county commission contest. In contrast,
Did you hear that? In other words, 14% of the people who vote, those are undervotes. People just didn't vote for local elections. They just wanted to vote for the big ones. That's one of the dangers here, a big one.
the last Panama City Beach race, there was only one undervote. So in the mayor's race, only one person didn't choose to vote. That means they were there to vote for the mayor. This is where we get into discussing voter apathy. So the more choices on the ballot, the voters get tired. They tend to not make it all the way through to the end. So if you were to have your city referendums on a general election ballot, they would appear at the very end.
That's another thing that helps the incumbents. So every time they want to change a city charter, they try to get as few as people as possible and get all their friends to go out and vote the way they want to vote. This is another reason that Jarman's pushing this.
Of your ballot. So you would have statewide referendums, then your county referendums, and then your city referendums. So In 2022, Panama City Beach had 8 referendums on their April ballot. So if you came to me and told me to add 8 referendums to a general election ballot, you could potentially create a 4-page ballot for your voters, which in my opinion is not ideal for the voters.
How nice she is. In other words, are you insane? Jarman, Casto, Ethan Register, Ethan Lawrence. Dude, please. I know. What am I talking about? Be realistic, Bernie. The issue is not that he doesn't know anything about government. The issue is that he's there for other people.
So decreased cost to the city, like I said, also removes the city clerk from the whole process. So yes, there is a decreased cost to the city moving to the county election timeline, but it essentially removes your city clerk from the election process. So currently the city determines things like your early voting times, your dates, your locations, whether or not you're going to mail out sample ballots or publish them in the newspaper. So the city currently appoints their own canvassing board to oversee the canvassing of the vote by mail ballots. So if you decide to move to the county timeline, you're essentially taking that and putting it in my hands as the supervisor of elections to make all those decisions for you, and then as well as the county canvassing board.
Does it sound to you like the supervisor of elections, Nina Ward, is in favor of this? Of course she's not. Everything that she has said is a bad idea. Undervotes, the city loses its control of its own elections. The logistical nightmare, the voter fatigue, all of it is bad. And Mike Jarman, at a meeting, the prior meeting, he said, I talked to Nina Ward and she's game. She's not game. She'll do what she has to do because she's a professional. Nina Ward is game. Supervisor, game. You guys are so dishonest.
This also means that the candidates will move to the county and state qualifying timeline, which would potentially extend your campaign season for your local candidates. So candidate qualifying is determined by the primary date. So candidate petitions would be due in May, qualifying
Screws
would take
everything
place in
up.
June, along with all the county candidates. I won't speak too much in regards to the effects on candidates. However, you do need to consider that you'd have city, county, state, and national level candidates all campaigning at once.
And referendums.
So you're theoretically campaigning and fighting over the same contributions, the same advertising space, and then potentially same county and state level issues.
That is the point I was trying to make. It's an incumbent protection act. Because if you're running for city council or school board or mayor, you are competing for, oh my God, you're competing for ad space. It's harder. Oh, but Bernie, is this about going around knocking on doors? You guys didn't even run. In one way, I'm glad that Supervisor of Elections Nina Ward is presenting this in a more calm, laid out kind of a way, right? Because Mark Anderson was saying the same things and he was fired up, and I was feeling him more than I was hearing him. And right now, thank you, Supervisor of Elections Ward. I knew that Mike Jarman was putting words in her mouth when he said, she's game. She just laid out at least 4 bullet points why it's a terrible damn idea. I really appreciate the way she's laying this out.
So if you move forward this change, it would affect 5 of my election day precincts. So currently the city has 1 early voting site for your city elections. Typically it's been Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then you'd have 2 voting locations at Frank Brown and then Lindell. So if you move to the county election timeline, we have 8 early voting sites, so you can vote at any of those sites, including Frank Brown and Lindell. And then there's 5 election day precincts that would affect your Panama City Beach voters. So you asked me if it was possible to move the election date, and the answer is yes. Logistically, it is possible for my office to do that. Panama City Beach, unlike other cities, you don't currently have runoff elections. You don't have ward-specific voting. So things like that make it a little more challenging for my office. So it's just things that you need to consider. I'm not a fan of just changing things to change them. So I would just ask what we're trying to accomplish. And if you are solely focused and concerned about voter turnout, then yes, the November election does provide that. However, there are many other effects that I would ask you to consider.
Going back to the point I was making earlier, right? What is seen? Look at what is not seen. Train yourself when you're looking at politics. Train yourself when you're looking at politics. Don't only look at what is seen, but look for what is not seen. In this case, it's all of the things she just laid out, all of the undervotes. Okay, I'm going to quit it there because that's about where we picked up. This is something that worked me up a little bit more than I had prepared for. You got 3 council members who are willing to just do so many things that are bad for the city because they're being led around by the nose by big developers. Thank you to those of you who throw a tip in the tip jar at patreon.com/Bernie Thompson. As little as $5 a month, patreon.com/Bernie Thompson. It's anonymous, it's easy, and you can quit at any time. And I sure appreciate the crowdfunding that allows me to continue to do this. Yeah, I couldn't do it without you. Also, same is true for the Unknown Patriot for sponsoring the show. All right, lots more coming up for you. I'm trying to get, I need to tell you about Ricky Ramey, the police chief. There was a hearing today, and I'm going to have to tell you about that tomorrow. And I'm going to have to tell you about the shocking findings in the big giant Mexico Beach audit. It's absolutely incredible.